I believe that we can create a sense of possibility and openness, of joy and compassion in our work world and in all of our organizations. And so Matrixworks is a social innovation technology that allows us to realize these aspirations. And by social innovation technology, I mean using our capacity for relationship, using our need for relationship as human beings to make a more living world, to make a more loving world, to make a culture that is based on care and connection and compassion. The way Matrixworks is taught is in a three-part system. There's some theory offered to give people a cognitive understanding of the approach, but most of it is experiential because it's experience that changes the brain. And so it's really a methodology of experiential learning. And then always in any program we do, we highlight the practical applications. How will people use this work in their own lives to make their work better, to make their own ability to accomplish their task, and to attend to relationship even stronger and more effective. We begin each training in Matrixworks with a moment of silence, and I won't take you through that right now, you're familiar with this, but often the phrase is used, relationship is all there is, because Matrixworks is a model that places high value on the capacity for relationship. And if you think about it, all success in business does depend on relationship, whether it's between the consumer and the seller or the employees working on a project together. But if the relationships are in right order, everything happens much more easily. So we build that in from the very beginning of training in Matrixworks. We do a lot of partner work and help people to feel safe with each other. And then the main map or model that is the foundation of Matrixworks is what we call the Emergent Cycle. And this is an understanding, or it's based on an understanding, that any living system, such as a human being, a group, or a whole organization, will go through 3 life spirals in order to emerge as a living system capable of handling more complexity and actually handling more chaos. So the first part of the emergent cycle is to get people connected. And we use a variety of ways to help people feel safe in themselves, feel safe sharing with other people, being vulnerable together, being strong together, and to have a sense that there's an intelligence that emerges when we are connected enough with each other that we're not holding back. It's as if the process of focusing on connection allows us to take the foot off the brake and to find a flow with each other that puts my gifts with your gifts to create something totally surprising and new and beneficial for the whole. The process of chaos is really helping a group to understand the difference between a chaos that is reflective of confusion or one that is reflective of and pointing to creativity. So all living systems go through cycles of order and chaos. And so if a team or a group is in a place of chaos, if facilitators know how to work with this, how to shepherd it so that the creative evolutionary impulse that's in that chaos can come forth, then that's where innovation and transformation can happen for the individual, for the team, and for the whole organization. And that's one of the, I think, the exciting gifts or expertise of Matrixworks is how to work with creative chaos. And there are 4 levels that I think are really important to making this transition from a confused chaos to a creative chaos. And the first is that there's a capacity within the individual and the team to make use of differences as gifts. So rather than polarizing, or rather than saying it's this versus this, we can see the differences as really two sides of the same coin, as both are necessary and both can be valued, whatever the opposites are. In business, often I'll see that some people are really in favor of spontaneity and surprises, and other people need structure and stability and a kind of security of the known. And actually, all groups and individuals need both. And so how do we work in such a way that we can invite the differences and the opposites to come into a sense of wholeness within the individual and the group? The second aspect of this inviting creative chaos is to establish a norm for high feedback within the team and the organization. And a question that we use a lot in Matrixworks is to be able to say to people that I trust and feel comfortable with, is there something about me that you think I don't see? And would you be willing to share that with me? And by engaging in this process with each other, my blind spots diminish, and things that are outside of my awareness can come into focus, and then I have more choice and more freedom to bring my best self forward. So if we can establish a norm for feedback, appreciative and constructive feedback, then everyone benefits. Sometimes we'll say in Matrixworks that feedback is the food for living systems, and without this feedback, we all lose. The third thing is a process of separating intention from impact. And in all the work I've done with business, people tell me that this is one of the most useful things that they take away from Matrixworks. And in this model of intention and impact, I'm responsible for my intentions, and I have authority over my intentions, but you have authority and have responsibility for sharing what is the impact on you of what has happened. If I say to you, I know that your intention was not to create problems for me, but when you turned in the report to me late so that I was late in turning in my report, it created a lot of stress for me. Then I've given information without blaming or judging, and I've also included myself in the equation. People tend to do one of two things with a situation like this. Either they will blame and judge and dump on the other person, or they will ignore themselves and say, oh, well, it doesn't matter, but it does matter. And we want to communicate in such a way that feedback is helpful, so that we can repair and we can make changes as we continue to work together. So a lot of time in Matrixworks is spent on making this a lived reality for people. And the final, the final part of this working with creative chaos is to work with archetypes and to see how they're playing out in the group field. Because sometimes unknowingly we'll take on a role in a group. We'll take on a kind of universal archetype. For example, could be the cynic, or the caretaker, or it could be the complainer, or the challenger, the one who, no matter what is proposed, always challenges it. So with awareness of these universal roles or types that can show up in groups, again, we have a lot more freedom. And one of the archetypes that we pay a special attention to is the scapegoat archetype. And this is an archetype that often shows up in a business or in any group, where there's a tendency to want to blame one person for whatever the problems are, rather than seeing it as a system. So in a system, I have my part and you have yours, and everyone has a piece of the problem. And it's never just one person's deficiency or deficit that is creating the whole scene. So that also brings a sense of freedom. So I hope that's helpful in understanding how we work with chaos. And if chaos is adequately creatively worked with, then we move into the third spiral of the Emergent Cycle, which is a new level of consciousness. And what we're aiming for in Matrixworks is a level of consciousness where we fully embody this awake we space. And we have the capacity to live the questions and to use the paradoxes to fuel our curiosity. And there's a level of creativity and spontaneity and awakeness and aliveness that's very nourishing for groups and allows us to continue to build cultures of care and connection. In this level of consciousness, I think we also experience a blending of uniqueness of each individual within a field of radical relatedness. And one of my teachers said that when we work in this way, then what's really true about human beings comes to the fore. And that these things are that our deeper nature, what's true about us is that we are capable of experiencing joy and love and compassion and a sense of deep peace. And if it's possible to have these things in our work life, in our schools, in our healthcare systems, then what a wonderful world we will have created. And that's the promise of Matrixworks. So I'm going to end with a final quote, which I hope will be appropriate for you. It's a quote by Teilhard de Chardin, and I think it's very meaningful. He says that love alone is capable of uniting living beings in such a way as to complete and fulfill them. For it alone takes what is deepest in them and unites them with themselves.